Hello, I'm Brenna Bay, a partner with Edwin Co. Welcome to our podcast series about residential construction. In these podcasts, we discuss matters which arise on residential construction projects. Numerous of the topics discussed in these podcasts are also covered in our guide entitled What to Know Before You Start Digging a Hole, which can be found on our website. I would highlight that the information within these podcasts is general guidance only and may not necessarily apply to your particular situation, since every construction project is different. Therefore, I strongly recommend that you seek professional advice before you undertake any sort of construction project or sign any appointments or contracts. In our last podcast, we discussed the importance of engaging a construction lawyer at the outset of your residential construction project, since a solicitor has specialist knowledge and can provide useful insights and contacts to assist with your building project. In this podcast, I will discuss another very important member of the project team, the contract administrator. As the term implies, a contract administrator, or CA, is responsible for administering the building contract. Basically, the contract administrator determines both your and the contractor's contractual rights and obligations under the building contract in respect of various matters. Critically, it is the CA which certifies both payments to the contractor as well as practical completion of the works. Some examples of the tasks which the CA undertakes are approving the quality of materials and the standard of the contractor's workmanship, supplying documents which the contractor requires to undertake the works, issuing instructions to the contractor to remedy works, determining whether a contractor is entitled to an extension of time, and ascertaining if you have to pay more money for the works to be completed. Even though you, as the client or employer under the building contract, hire and pay the CA, a key aspect of the contract administrator's role is its obligation to act independently and impartially as between you and the contractor. Using the example of an extension of time, the CA is required to review a contractor's application for an extension of time and fairly assess the claim to determine whether an extension should be given. How does the CA make such an assessment? The basis of a contract administrator's authority is the building contract. In the case of a claim for an extension of time, the contract will detail the events which entitle the contractor to more time, along with the steps which the contractor needs to follow to make its claim. Accordingly, the CA needs to be familiar with the provisions of your specific building contract. Furthermore, it is also the reason why it is good to include amendments to clarify matters. For example, including a list of the documents required to certify practical completion, as this assists the contract administrator when it is exercising its authority by making clear what you and the contractor have agreed. Having listened to our previous podcasts, you are of course aware that you will need a written appointment to engage your contract administrator. A bespoke form of contract may be used, or it may be appropriate to use a RICS professional services appointment with some amendments. Given its role in certifying the works for both payments and practical completion, a contract administrator will need to have an appropriate level and basis of professional indemnity insurance. Additionally, if you are getting funding for your project, your lender will likely require a collateral warranty from the CA. Within this podcast, I have used the term contract administrator. However, depending on the contract used, rather than CA, you might find the term used for the role of contract administrator is project manager, employer's agent, or even engineer. Generally, JCT contracts refer to the architect/contract administrator, with the exception being the JCT design and build contract, which uses the term employer's agent. Historically, the role of contract administrator was performed by an architect. While many architects still do act as CA, these days it is just as common for the administration of a contract to be undertaken by another professional team member, such as the quantity surveyor, or a specialist contract administrator. What is, however, very important is that you should never agree to the contractor acting as CA, nor should you try to undertake this role. Not only does one need specialist knowledge to administer a building contract, as outlined above, a contract administrator must act independently and impartially as between the contractor and the employer. Clearly, such independence and impartiality will not exist if the role of CA is undertaken by a party to the contract. Finally, with regard to when you should engage a CA, my recommendation would be as soon as possible. While it might at first seem that there is nothing to administer until a contract is in place, often there are payments which are made pre-contract. As well, there can be various considerations when tendering a project on which a CA can provide valuable insight. In this podcast, we've discussed the role of the contract administrator. Responsible for independently and impartially administering the contract, it is the CA who, among other things, certifies both payments and practical completion of the works. As such, your contract administrator is a vital member of your professional team. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast and will join us again next time.